Hi, I'm Holly from Accrual Mistress Bookkeeping and Consulting, and today I'm going to show you how to pull a profit and loss and a balance sheet out of QuickBooks Online. Now, there are lots of reasons why we as small business owners might want to sit down and review these reports. I do recommend looking at your profit and loss and balance sheet at least once a month while running your small business, because it really gives you an idea of where you stand and if you're hitting any goalposts that you have in mind for yourself and for your business. Aside from that, though, your reports are also a very important part of your compliance. Now, there are lots of possible agencies that might ask for these reports to ensure that we are operating as we should be. We need these reports to file our tax returns, for example, and we also need these reports to determine both personal and professional creditworthiness. So if we're going to ask a bank for a loan, whether that's a personal loan like a mortgage on a house, or whether that's going to the SBA to ask them for financing to invest in our business, we need to be able to provide reports demonstrating what our business has accomplished so far. And the profit and loss and balance sheet reports are the two key reports generally used for this determination. So, how do we get to these reports? Well, all we have to do is mouse over Reports on the left-hand navigation menu in QuickBooks Online. Now we can see here we have lots of options: standard, custom, management, or financial planning reports. In order to access just your profit and loss and balance sheet, you can feel free to click right here on standard reports. Although I will be doing a video on how to customize reports for any reporting needs that you may have. So please do like and subscribe if that's something that you think might be useful. But we'll go ahead and click on standard reports right here because we do just want to go view our profit and loss and balance sheet. And at the very top right here, we have a favorites section. And it just so happens that both the balance sheet and the profit and loss are in this favorites section. Now, if for any reason the balance sheet and profit and loss were not showing up for you in this section, all you would have to do is scroll down into the business overview section where those two reports live. And you would have to click the little star next to it so that it becomes green and stays green. Now, since the balance sheet and profit and loss are already up here, I'm going to go ahead and add a profit and loss year-to-date comparison in order to demonstrate adding a report to favorites. So if I click the little green star right here, that report is now going to show up on my favorites, and so it's going to be right at the top of my screen when I go into reports. Now, you can add or get rid of reports from this favorites section simply by clicking on the star, and then that report moves away. If you want to add it again, all you have to do is find it in line and click that star once more. So, in order to go into our profit and loss and balance sheet at this point, all we have to do is click on whichever one we want to see. Let's go ahead and start with our balance sheet. So, what we'll notice about our balance sheet specifically is that it actually pulls up a kind of interesting period of time. It pulls up year to date from January 1st of this year to March 14th. Now, this is definitely something to watch for whenever you go to pull any report like this in QuickBooks. It doesn't always pull the same dates every time. Oftentimes the profit and loss, when you first go in and pull it up, will pull the prior month's profit and loss. So if you're needing to pull a profit and loss or a balance sheet for a specific period of time or as of a specific date, you're going to need to go ahead and enter that information. So I actually don't want my profit and loss to run through March 14th of 2026. I want this report to go ahead and run for the prior fiscal year, okay? So all I would have to do is scroll down here and I could say last year, and it will automatically change the dates for me to reflect that particular time period for this report. I can, of course, also go right here and change the dates manually. So the important thing to remember about a balance sheet is that it is a snapshot as of a particular date and time. So you can see my balance sheet changed when I ran it as of December 31st of 2025 versus March 14th of 2026. So this is the balance sheet, and this is how this is the report that we could then export and send out. I do recommend always taking a look to make sure that you feel like all of the numbers that are here are representative of what's happening in your business. So does this seem like what your bank balances were on December 31st? Are you sure that you didn't have any accounts receivable that were outstanding at that time? Same with accounts payable. Does the balance on a credit card make sense? All of these things add up to your balance sheet. So knowing that the numbers are correct is very, very important. One thing that I will say is, since there are 0 numbers on here, one thing that I might want to or choose to do before I export this report is do just a little bit of customization. So if I click Customize right here, the side menu pops out. And let's say I don't want to see any 0 values on my balance sheet. I can click Non-Zero. And as you can see, that got rid of those 0 balances that were hanging out. Now, for the most part, if something has a 0 balance on the balance sheet, that either simply means that it had a 0 balance as of that date and time, or it can also happen if you have a loan or a credit card or something like that that has been fully paid off and is not in existence anymore. You also might see it if you have a fixed asset that you have disposed of. So if you don't want those things showing up on the balance sheet that you export, clicking that little non-zero will eliminate those. So now all I have on my balance sheet are the things that actually have a dollar value associated with them. Now, when it comes to sending this balance sheet out into the world, I have a lot of different options for how I go about that. And we can see them all right here. I can either email this report directly to whoever needs to see it, at which point, if I click here, it gives me options for how to do that. So the subject line is balance sheet. Now, that's a little bit vague. If I were sending this to somebody and I needed them to know, I might put in my business name. I might put in the reason that they are receiving this particular document from me. And then, of course, you simply put in the 2 email addresses that you need it sent to. You also do have the option to update the file name, so how they will see the file when they receive it. And again, if you're sending this for the purposes of getting a loan or anything like that, you might want to add a little bit more detail here so that it's very clear what this document is. Okay, so that's how we would send it via email. If we wanted to print it, we would just click here, and then that gives us the option for how we print it. We can either send it to a printer if we have one hooked up, or we can do a print to PDF to save it to our local computer. Again, make sure that you're naming these documents. I generally will put an 8-digit date code in any documents that I export. So for this, it would be, accrual mistress training file balance sheet, and then I would do 2025-12-31 so that I know that that is as of December 31st of 2025. All right, and then the final thing here is you can actually export this to either Excel or to a Google Sheet. So that's really great if that's a way that you are comfortable or want to share documents. All right, so now that we have gone over the balance sheet and reviewed how we can pull that, let's go ahead and check out the profit and loss. So if I click right here and go back to standard reports, that's going to take me to this primary navigation screen, and I can click profit and loss. Now again, same thing, it's run it for this year to date. I'm going to go ahead and say I want to see it for last year. And here is our profit and loss. This does follow very standard formatting, so this is fantastic. If you want to see some different items, you can feel free to play with the customize section over here. You could, for example, say that you don't want to have any cents on your profit and loss. This would make sense if you're a very, very large company and the cents just don't matter. So we could say round to nearest whole number, and then we're going to get a slightly simplified version of our profit and loss. We could also say if there are any negative numbers, we might want to show those in red. Now, ideally, we're not going to see negative numbers on our profit and loss, but if we had issued a refund to anybody and not just put it through the same income account, we might actually see something like that on a profit and loss. So it would just be a way to call it out. All right, so again, you can see here we have the same options for how we send this out into the world. We can email it directly from QuickBooks. We can print it, at which point we can either print a physical copy or do print to PDF, or we can export it to any of these formats. All right, so this is how we get a profit and loss and balance sheet out of QuickBooks Online and into the world so that we can use them to continue running our business. So whether that's for a tax return, whether that's to go and get funding for ourselves personally or for our businesses, or whether that's just to check in and see how our business is doing at any given point. I'm Holly from Accrual Mistress Bookkeeping and Consulting. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.